what I'd like to do is get your sense of where China is strong and getting stronger, and where China is weak and needs to improve. And whatever fields, and I'd like specific fields or subfields in each category.
Mhm,
I know that, for example, the Science or Nature magazine some years ago
mhm,
ran a survey in basic science of like 120 fields, and China, it was actually
mhm,
number one in maybe 15 or 20, and the U.S.
mhm,
was maybe 60 or 70, and the other were
mhm,
scattered in pure science. So from your vantage point in science and technology policy, really,
mhm,
really aware of what's happening in China.
mhm.
What are some of the fields that China is strong in, and what are the fields that it's weak in?
I think let me first let me answer this in two ways. One is that I think in general, I think China is very strong in its human resources. China has in terms of S&T full-time equivalent.
Mhm.
Probably we are we have the highest S&T forces in terms of doing R&D work and so on. So China is very strong in that. And also, I think China's investment is also quite high. I think now only secondary to the U.S. I think that China has invested a lot of money in R&D. And I think so. Those are I would say in general that is very strong. But also China has its own weakness. I think the first weakness I think is it's more of the institutional arrangement. China still suffers from some the legacies from the plan system from the 1950s. So I think institutional change takes a long time. So I think that some of those old arrangements are still, I think it's affecting the current efficiency of the current system. So how do you change that? I think because many of those changes, I think, would really touch on every corner of the society, and so sometimes it's not easy. So
Mm.
I think that's at the broader general level. I think in terms of specific fields, I would say that in general, I think the U.S. is still the strongest. I think that there's no question. I think China is catching up in some of those fields, but again, for example, in health science, I think the U.S. is far stronger than any other country in the world. In computer science, I think in like chip manufacturing, in chip design and so on. That again, U.S. is far better than any other countries. And also, I think that in the more general terms, in terms of S&T research, paper publications, uh, the total number of S&T papers China published now, China is number one in terms of total numbers. But in terms of high quality publications, US far exceeds any other country. I think I did some analysis in this about 5 or 6 years ago. And at the time, for the high quality publications, US is 3 times of Chinese publications. So while the total number is more or less, on par. So I think that's where you see the China's weakness.